Hi there, welcome to this 2-in-1 video. First of all, we're going to look at the theme, conversations of, levels of trust, but more so bordering on to the key factor you need to take in mind before drama and conflict occurs, and that's misunderstanding. It's a key theme of today, which we're going to be talking about, okay? If it does get a little bit heavy or full on, well, part 2 of this video will be a bit more light-hearted, and maybe some people at least will find it kind of, positive, who knows. But if you're not into the second part of the video, or you're not into the odd individual or name of person, well, this first part of the video will be okay for you because this is a general discussion, in case you're wondering. But I can refer back to my past experience with cases that I've covered, the communities that I've been in, and how things have gone about, okay? So when it comes to current or ongoing or future drama, what kind of gets tied up within it all? It could be misunderstanding, it could be misinformation, it could be some kind of tension, frustration. I mean, I was probably one of the catalysts to mention some of the ingredients from back then when covering the Dylan Rounds case. Through misunderstandings, there can be tension, there can be conflict, which then escalates to full-on drama, and it could drag on for quite some time, okay? And then during the drama phase, it can have its own problems. But we need to look at the factors before it even gets to that point. Whilst I've done videos in the past explaining how to avoid drama or how to reduce it, why people get involved, why people are stuck in a constant cycle. Some do it for gain and benefit, and others don't know what they're doing, and others are just dipsy individuals, as we said. And that can apply to different areas online, of course, and certain communities. But what about the beginning part? Doesn't that need to be looked at? I mean, I've not done a video on it until right now, so I might as well do so. And I said, with my own encounters of coming across people that have greatly misunderstood me or my videos, it's led to people having a bit of a meltdown, bit of a panic, bit of a tiff, throwing the toys out the pram, making false accusations, jumping to conclusions, the lot. But it hasn't escalated into full drama because I've kept it under control, and I guess the people around have kept it under control, such as other audience members, right? Normally, when it comes to misunderstandings, it can be with people you don't know, you've never seen before, new to your channel, right? You've not been introduced. So people aren't going to know who you are, what you're all about, how you do your channel and cover your videos. So that's a key area where misunderstandings can form. You've never seen someone before, you don't know how they work, you don't know what goes on in their mind, right? So through that misunderstanding, there can be miscommunication, there can be jumping the gun and making false assumptions or false accusations, depending how serious the matter is. And then it equals full-on blown-out drama and people getting hurt, right? How do you avoid that? Well, you can introduce yourself as much as you like till the cows come home, but you can't plan or predict when new people will come onto your channel and watch your videos. If you're in a gated community where no new people come on in, it's just regulars over and over again, that's a separate issue which we'll look at later, and it ties in with the trust issues as well. There tends to be trust issues both with strangers but also with those that may know one another, acquaintances, friends, or whatever the relationship thing may be, okay? But in terms of coming across new people, fresh faces towards a channel, you can introduce yourself, but you can't be doing it all the time, right? Whilst there may be misunderstandings, you as a creator should never have to feel that you have to explain yourself every single time, every single sentence, every single second, okay? I might have done it here and there in the past when talking about serious things, important cases and topics to prevent things from escalating there. But in general, you shouldn't have to think about it all the time. You should be able to do whatever you do and just get on with it. And if people come on along one time or for the ride, they can learn as they go along. If they want to jump the gun themselves, well, they're an impetuous one-dimensional prat, okay? They want to start complaining, whinging and whining without context. Well, they're a lost cause. Do you need to cut the ties with them? No. You don't need to cut ties with those type of people because they're strangers. You've never seen them before. You've not been around them for any time. Maybe at best or so, they'll complain, they'll misunderstand, and then they'll just walk away, right? Now, unfortunately, it's never resolved that. They may never come back, which is probably a good thing if they've got such a toxic attitude and mentality. What would you do though in a situation of a person who may appear as somewhat of a stranger at first, but keeps coming back as a regular with time, but keeps misunderstanding? Well, that's its own factor, what we need to look into today, and that can cross on over and overlap with regular viewers or even a gated community, right? Because one-time misunderstandings can go wrong, can be damaging, can lead to things, but at the same time, because it's one time only, it's hi and bye, and maybe you never see them again. Maybe you never get the chance to introduce yourself or explain yourself or the situation, or maybe they themselves have got such a low attention span, worse than an ant, where they just, just toddle off, they just run away. Well, scrim, lost cause. Okay, natural selection is why it is. But regular misunderstandings, that cycle, that chain, well, if it's constantly going about over and over again, you shouldn't be surprised as to why drama comes about over and over again. The cycle within the Dylan Rounds case community was, I made videos, I said this was found, that was found, but not entirely to do with Dylan Rounds or the body, but people came along, misunderstood it, like Buster Bitchamus and Ty Corbin. Those are good examples of people. And a few other prats as well. They came on in, they did not think, they jumped the gun. Now, I don't know about Grizzly. I think Grizzly might have complained at one point. The one that had that profile picture of a dog which looks like it was laced up on all kinds of substances with its mouth dropped, low standards, low quality. Bit disgusting, to be honest, but there's a lot of disgusting things out there, and beings and atoms, peasants. I'm only joking there, okay? But what I'm not joking about is those type of people with their misunderstandings coming to my channel and falsely claiming of clickbait when there is no proof of it. You read on over it, you look at the language, you look at the theme, you look at the description, you look at the video, you look, listen, learn, you won't misunderstand it. Those that misunderstand me are one-dimensional humans with a degenerative low attention span. That's on them, that's their problem, that's their fault, not mine. I'm here spending my time explaining situations, talking things through in a semi-formal way. If people don't want to listen, okay, but you don't really have a right to complain when you don't know the full context, okay? It is what it is. I mean, there'll be people with time that have come on into the chat, no, not much interest in the particular theme, topic or case, but they don't complain either, and that's fine, right? You get what I'm saying? But if a person came on in, fast-tracked their way through a video or a certain clip, they demanded answers immediately, and because they didn't get it in their short span, their memory, their mind, then they complain, throw the toys out the pram. There's no reason to do that. It's very unnecessary, but that's what people did, and some people did it on a regular basis. And there were still strangers to my channel, even if there were known people, just because they weren't regulars. So they're kind of strangers, more so outsiders. That's what I tend to use nowadays. It's easier as a collective, holistic term, outsiders. Those that come on in here and there, and it tends not to be positive, and there's really no contribution or support whatsoever. Basically freeloaders, waste of humans, oxygens, right? Not everyone, but a fair portion, okay? It's happened. How do you deal with that? Well, if you nail it in the head, not literally, or what do they call it, nip it in the bud. I don't know why you talk about nips, yeah, there's the down here, but watch you're crazy. We're not getting to that yet, so pay attention for now, okay? But if you can explain on the spot quickly before it escalates, yes. But it depends how serious the situation is. If it's not that serious, as I said, don't go through the cycle of explaining yourself every time with everyone, with every new person. Maybe just here and there if you wish to, but don't get into the cycle of doing it. The only time when it might be worth considering explaining and giving context behind an outsider or some kind of resistance is when it's maybe a bit more of a serious matter, in the sense that if you did leave it and you didn't say anything, it could escalate and it could lead to problems developing or you being on the receiving end of something negative, okay? Not that it will happen, but it can. If there was a group of 20 people that came on in and said, this is clickbait, we're going to report the video, and let's say they didn't have an agenda, they were just being serious in what they said, and you were like, well, if I leave it and I don't do anything, because I shouldn't have to, they might report the video, they might report the channel, and you never know how YouTube works, a bit of a lottery, luck-based system, as corrupt as it may sound. YouTube may take action, you get punished. You get punished because of impetuous humans that didn't understand the briefing and the debriefing of the video and the content. It's not fair, is it? But in those situations where you could be at risk for keeping quiet, those are the moments where you should speak up, okay? You're not forced to, but sometimes it's worth it in the long run, right? It's like with when people say you get involved in drama or your name gets brought up, stay out of it, don't mention anything. But as I said, at times, silence can equal suspicion, can make you more of a target. So give and take, at times there's a place and time to speak out, to talk and explain situations, okay? Can misunderstandings come through trust issues? Kind of, but to be honest, I think they're separate things, right? You can have misunderstandings when you don't know a person. You can have misunderstandings when you do know a person. You can have trust issues with a person you've never met before. You could have trust issues with people you're around on a regular basis. But then again, you've got to ask yourself, the moments of when you've got trust issues with people you're around on a regular basis, explain or ask yourself, why are you around those type of people? Is it by choice or not? If you're in a workplace, some kind of work environment, and you're around people, not much you can do about it, you might have trust issues with those type of people around you. So that's understandable. But if you're in a community in real life or online, some kind of activity, some kind of class you engage in, some kind of live chat online, such as YouTube, and you say that you don't trust people, then why are you around them in the first place, right? That's why I don't like using that line. It can be easy to say at times that you don't trust anyone in this world, but I don't like using it because it's quite disrespectful towards people around you, right? So let's say the situation I'm in on YouTube and, you know, bit of an audience. Unfortunately, nowadays it seems to be very small, the audience on here. Honestly, don't know what's gone wrong there. It is what it is. But if at any point, and there was lots of people present, and I outright said, I don't trust anyone, then everyone around could think, well then, why do you speak to us? Why do you interact with us? Why do you do any of this if you don't trust anyone, right? You're throwing it back in people's faces. It's a bit rude. If you honestly don't trust anyone, then don't be friends with anyone. Don't start faking it in a sense and being kind of two-faced, because you end up screwing other people over. Whilst you may genuinely not trust people by pretending to be their friends or coming across as if you're friendly towards them, and you never say about it, but you don't trust them, it just seems a bit, I don't know, a bit cancerous in a way. If you outright came across people like first-time introductions and said, hi there, nice to meet you, in general, I don't trust anyone in life, the end. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. You know, it's out of the way. So you know from the beginning. But even that, if you know from the beginning that the people you're around, that they don't trust you and you don't trust them, it's a constant, tense standoff of who's going to do something bad first, right? Who's going to strike first. And to be honest, in times and situations where there's no trust, then there's no progress, and you're not really going to get anywhere. It's going to be tense all the way through. And maybe when it's tense like that and both parties don't trust one another, then there might be the misunderstanding in which, due to being super sensitive or high alert, you may pick up on something which wasn't a problem or wasn't intentional, and then that's a misunderstanding. Then the other person fires back and misunderstands their reaction, and then it's just back and forth, endless cycle. If you're in a situation though where you trust people or you're quite neutral around some people, but the person you're in the presence of, they don't trust you, are you in a dangerous situation? Will it be an uncomfortable place to be in? Well, it's not going to be the best interaction, but you know, someone that has trust issues may not cause you harm as long as you yourself, if you know that you're a decent person, if you don't do anything bad, then they won't either. If you said to them, let's hang out, or can I give you something, or have a conversation, yeah, they might be very reluctant, okay, with that interaction part. You might see it as disappointing. But if they are a bit reluctant and a bit defensive, but not in an aggressive way, then does it really matter? It doesn't, right? Obviously, the more you act out or the more you interact with that person, that trust can be built, that rapport can be built. But at the end of the day, you can actually treat it like this. You come across people with trust issues, it's like abandoned animals, like an abandoned dog on the side of a road. Those type of animals, pets, dumped, abandoned, treated badly, can have trust issues. Some can be a little bit aggressive, bark, bite, whatever, because they're scared, because they don't know who to trust. Humans, animals, it's the same situation there. And misunderstanding as well. Person could reach the hand out because they want to pet the dog or feed it, but the dog sees it as a threat, a misunderstanding. So it defends itself, it bites, it jumps, whatever, and the other person gets hurt or might do. Wasn't truly intentional, but it was a misunderstanding, but it did lead to problems in the end, right? You can work around that, you can train that dog, or you can try again and then build that trust with it, or whoever, a person. But maybe it takes time, and do you want to spend all that time and effort doing it, especially if you're on, such as on YouTube, on a platform community where at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, right? Now, aside from trust, where people may say they don't trust anyone, yet they surround themselves with a load of people, which seems a little bit contradictory to that mentality, is like the people that say that they hate everyone. Now, maybe that can come out very loosely. I'm sure most people come out with a line very loosely, but if you want it to be awkward, okay, typical, isn't it? But if you want it to be awkward and very specific, if an individual truly hated everyone, then why are you even having a conversation with people in the first place about it? If you truly hate everyone, you would keep as far away as possible from absolutely everyone on this earth. So you could be living off-grid and just surviving out in the open. Now, that's not exactly practical or possible for everyone out there. So these terms and phrases should be revised and changed a little bit more, because they can be misunderstood themselves and then people could take offense to it, let's just say. You know, you can get people out there that will say that they hate everyone and they hate people without elaboration. And you may find out the person that said that they hate everyone, they just so happen to have a family themselves or be in a relationship with someone. And you think, well, if you truly hate everyone, then what does that make that person who you're with? Do you hate them? And they'll say, obviously, no, of course not. So it should be changed to, you hate most people on this earth, but there are a few exceptions, right? Or like you could say, there are so many bad people out there, but here and there, there'll be the odd good person, right? It's about being realistic, okay? If you jump in at the deep end and outright say 100% of people are idiots, or 100% of people are nasty, or 99.9% of people are bullies, you know, whatever the phrases or terms you may use, then does your mentality match in with how you interact or the lack of interaction, right? And many times there's contradictions. So when these statements are issued and called out, if people are on the receiving end of hearing it, they may think, well then, why are we friends? Or why are we talking? Why are you in the presence? What's going on here? It's a simple misunderstanding. That person that used that phrase isn't being 100% serious on that point. They're just loosely throwing the words and lines about. It's a human mistake and error. It is what it is, but as you can tell, it can lead through to misunderstandings. So all these different outcomes, right? Even before it gets to the drama and the conflict aspect. And to be honest, the importance of this, if you can somehow work out or resolve the whole misunderstandings, then you can prevent a whole wave of drama for the future, right? So to revert back to my individual experiences from at least what I've seen and known, okay, come across the odd few characters that come to my channel, they've misunderstood the video, the title, the thumbnail, or what I'm talking about, throw the toys out the pram, and I just simply respond back and say, listen here, impetuous one, if you look at this and look at that, it will make more sense. And I do explain it here and there, right? What did they do? They can't say much. They can't. And then the odd occasion, people have apologised to me, and damn bloody right they should. Okay? Now, what about the chat or the comment section? There can be misunderstandings there, not through what a person says, but these indirect actions going on. So when it comes to comments being deleted, comments not showing up, comments being removed, over time, there was a range of different people that misunderstood me and assumed that I deleted their comments. And the moment I responded back and simply explained the situation, they got a little bit defensive. I'm sorry, but I'm going to treat everyone the same way. If you're going to be impetuous, I'm going to highlight and make an observation that you're an impetuous individual, okay? I am making valid observations. Now, if a person didn't know me or didn't know my channel and then wondered as for comments being removed, I would understand that because they don't know everything. If a person isn't quite aware or alert of YouTube or they're not on it that much, well, I understand that area there for not, picking up on what the real problem is. But more so in the situations where you might have regular viewers and people that come on in that know you or know your channel and the structure, and then suddenly witness comments being deleted, it should be, surely you should know better that an individual like me wouldn't do that. And yet people still question, and some people do get a little bit more defensive and a bit more triggered without the full context. Now, YouTube is a dodgy platform. Comments do get deleted. My comments have been removed from my own channel without my control or consent. So take that as a bit of a lesson or an understanding, okay? Just recently, there was actually in the YouTube studio mode, like a warning or some kind of issue, a well-known one by YouTube, claiming that comments have been removed and deleted and they're not showing up in the new comment section either. It's a known issue. They're working on it in the background. So it's clearly been reported. It is an ongoing thing. It is known to YouTube, and it's only just been notified now to creators, okay? Obviously, if you're a viewer, you're not going to know the ins and outs of YouTube, so there'll be misunderstandings there of how the platforms run, how things work, the policies, the guidelines. But this is the factor, right? What can happen is misunderstandings in those areas happen before trust issues. And that's where the problem is, because then the trust issues escalates at times to drama. So let me just explain it to you, because this is very critical. You could have an audience, you think everything's okay and fine, but then through a certain interaction or a misunderstanding, such as with comments being removed, not by the creator, but by YouTube randomly, the audience members get a bit triggered and overreact and question or point the finger at the creator for being responsible, right? It's a misunderstanding. Those audience members don't understand what's happened with YouTube, the policies, the dodgy guidelines and all that mess, but the creator does. But the reason why it's an issue and how it translates to a trust issue is the fact that these audience members, you've seen for a while. They've been around for a while. In your communities, with your audiences, they've been around. Surely by now they should trust you and understand you. Yet this late on in the game, they question you and turn the tables on you and have a go without full context. And then the moment you explain it to them, and you might be a bit stern and formal, oh, they take offense to that. Well, I'm sorry. If you're not going to trust me, then why should I show 100% respect to you when you've been around so long and yet you don't understand the situation? So what it basically means is people that have been around for some time who are no longer strangers but still questions the actions of a creator or something like that, the space, the changes, the actions taken, whatever it may be, as a form of trust issues. So early on and midway through, you thought everything was okay, but all along, audience members had trust issues, or at a later point, developed trust issues through a misunderstanding. Okay? You see how things can turn so fast? First, there is a misunderstanding. Then, because of their reaction and their response, it's a form of if they don't trust you, so trust issues developing instantaneously. Then that can lead to the person responding back, maybe in abrupt or an aggressive or a formal way. Then the original person calling out takes offense to that. Then the creator responds back and has a go. Then it goes back and forth. Then it may end up opening some other doorways to ongoing or past conflict, which they've never talked about or opened up before, but now they suddenly do, and make it all one big issue and mess. Do you understand how something so simple as comments being deleted, removed by YouTube, leads to audience members getting their toys and throwing them out the pram and pointing the blame at the creator despite supposedly knowing them for quite some time, instantaneously showing trust issues, and then it leading to misunderstandings, arguments, falling outs, and possible drama and conflict? Because as I've clearly seen from my own experience, I've come across people that have been around for a fair bit of time, the odd individual, and then they're showing their true colours in the future. And it's like, well, why did you not show it immediately? Why has it taken this long and a certain factor and event for it to turn and show the correct, person, right? So that's just one example, but it's a big example, okay? If you're somehow able to counter these misunderstandings, you can prevent that from escalating, okay? So, how did I respond to it when people questioned me with comments being deleted, for example? I just simply did a video, or I simply left a response in the comments in general saying, okay, here's the deal. YouTube's responsible, this and that, blah, 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 formally explaining it. It's not me, it's out of my control. I've looked at the held for review section, there's no comments there, and if there are, I do approve of them. I've got all comments turned on, so there's no restrictions there like some channels have. It's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. YouTube are to blame, and it is an issue, and it has been highlighted now online. Okay? That's all I can do. Explain the situation there. Okay? Sometimes I might say, hey, impetuous one. And just because they have been around long, or they may know me, and they say, oh, you call me impetuous. Well, it's just an observation. Okay? Do I have to start giving special treatment to some people and naughty treatment towards others? When you start doing that, it creates a bit of division, and with divide, and with being excluded or not, or over-included, I don't know, it could lead to own tension and stuff. It's best just keeping it somewhat balanced and fairly open. But when there's a bit of a serious misunderstanding, or there's a sense where it could escalate, I'm going to explain the situation in a formal way, such as with that. So then all they can do is respond back and say, oh, okay, I see, I understand, or, oh, sorry, and that's it. But other people out there would respond back and say, how could you question me? Oh, what about you yourself? You're not a good person. You've done stuff in your past. And they respond back saying, what's this got to do with it? And then that's how it escalates, okay? So if there is a misunderstanding or there's a form of doubt, as disappointing as it may be to you when looking at them, just respond back to them in a formal way, calmly, and then it shouldn't escalate any further. When dealing with a community, true crime, mystery, right? You're talking about theories, ideas. Some people are talking about facts and true events. At times it can cross on over and get muddled up. And then there can be a misunderstanding, confusion, and when there's confusion, people can get stressed, and if you're stressed or confused, you can get aggravated by it, and depending what your mood is at the time, or if you've got a short fuse, you factor all that in, and it can lead to getting a bit frustrated, maybe angry with a person or people, or starting to argue with them, and then they themselves, the others out there, may respond back, and it's back, forth, and then there's too much noise, too much talking, and then you drift away from the actual case and the meaning of why you're here, right? And we saw that within the Dylan Rounds case, and there was a lot of misunderstandings with time. The other form of misunderstanding, and it's unfortunate, and it was a key strategy to cause division, it was a key strategy to cause confusion, was fake impersonation accounts. And you see that all over online nowadays. Somebody might come into the live chat or leave a comment on there, and you might think, oh, look who it is once again, or oh, it's that person showing up, and maybe they're a good person or they've got a bad reputation ongoing or in the past, and you see a different side to them all of a sudden. And because the general public viewers can't see, or at some point couldn't see, the profiles of these accounts, you couldn't tell if it was a real account or a fake one, an impersonation, right? Sometimes it was obvious, but other times it wasn't as clear. And if it's bordering on to other communities in which those people from there don't know who the original is, they might just assume that this account showing up is of the real person. And these fake accounts tend to be negative and cause disruption, say bad things, start maybe some kind of drama. So then it paints a bad picture and a negative picture on the original individual who's been impersonated. They wouldn't know at the time, but then they would eventually know. So luckily, for most part of it, most people understood the fake impersonation accounts of me. But at times, some people who didn't even know me came to my channel and had a go at me, question me. How could you say such bad things? Why are you being like this? Why are you acting so strange and weird in live chats elsewhere? Okay? And in their mindset, I could understand why they would be confused, maybe angry, frustrated. Why would someone like me do that? Or at least why is it perceived that an account that has the same username and profile picture do something like that? The reason why I didn't escalate the situation through those misunderstandings from my experience was because I understood already that they don't know me. So the first time that they see an impression of me, literally, their first time impression will be negative and assume that it's of me doing it when it's not. So they type in the name, they find my channel and think, oh, here it is, same profile, same username, let's respond back, right? And that's what happened. What did I do? I just simply replied back saying, hi there, welcome. That's unfortunate that it appears that there is an impersonation account of me doing that stuff, saying those negative things. It seems to have happened previously or it's ongoing elsewhere. I'm sorry to hear or what you've experienced, but it's an impersonation account. And 10 times out of 10, the people responded back saying, ah, okay, sorry, or ah, okay, I understand now. Thanks for explaining. You see, a serious situation like that, and it was resolved so quickly. Now, later, as we get into it, we can highlight, besides a lot of people in the YouTube streets being stuck in the endless cycle of drama for whatever reason, dipsy or gaining from it, people are in the revolving, ongoing, eternal cycle of misunderstandings and trust issues from that, and then drama being caused. And it goes round and round and round. People don't learn. Typical, isn't it? As I said, disease-ridden communities, it is what it is, but I'll try and shed a bit of healing upon it in general shortly. But to revert back to what I was getting at, when it came to people coming towards my channel, they've seen a very negative side. They've seen very negative comments and bad things said about them or about others in the name of me, someone impersonating to be me, pretend to be me, and paint a negative picture. And some people have been convinced by it because they don't know my channel before. so they just take it as, you know, first impressions, yeah, they'll have a very negative outlook on me, and some do voice their opinions, but the only way you can respond back is by being calm. If you're too defensive and a bit negative, well, they probably won't listen. You know, their personality, their thoughts, their feelings at the time, their senses are quite tense, okay? Heat of the moment, if you want to call it that. They might not quite be thinking very clearly. So if you start undermining or insulting them when they've already been possibly insulted by the impersonation account, you're going to dig yourself a hole, okay? Depending how negative or insulting that impersonation account of you was towards others, if you respond back explaining the situation in a similar rude way, they probably will think that you're the same individual. Now, granted, there are times in life, very serious moments, where if you respond back too calmly, such as a murder case, you could be accused of being a psychopath or somehow responsible just because you're not showing any emotion. So sometimes it genuinely can be a lose-lose situation, understand that. It can be messed up. But from my experiences, it's not that drastic, okay? It's just online misunderstandings through the usage of others impersonating a creator or maybe an audience member. There'll be some people here watching that have gone through it themselves, and those people may have been on the receiving end of scrutiny and questioning by the hands of others that interacted with that fake account. As I said, best thing you can do is just calmly explain the situation to that person that's been impacted and state the facts. Now, if they're not willing to listen, do not escalate it. Simply repeat what you said in a calm way. And if they don't get it or understand, leave it there. There's no point using any more energy up. Okay? So it's all about responding back in a formal or semi-formal way with a stranger or someone you may know of. But I said, all these different strategies of misunderstandings. Most misunderstandings are natural. Miscommunication, breakdown in communication with another individual or group, right? If you explain it, you talk it through, it should be okay. If you don't want to talk it through, that's fine. But when it matters, a serious situation, it's best to do it just to protect yourself, okay? But then the other occasions where it could be a bit more specific, someone you may know on a regular basis, you'll have to deal with it maybe a little bit differently. Maybe the whole cutting ties is when that's needed, because you know a regular or a returner, they can go round and round and round. So we'll get to that very shortly, okay? As said, besides the natural misunderstandings, there are intentional or third-party intent to cause misunderstandings and break down different communities or inner communities of people. So the impersonation accounts to direct anger towards one another, or conflicts, arguments, to break down that trust. There will be outsiders out there that will plant themselves inside a community on YouTube, wherever it may be, and cause inattention and inner breakdowns of communication and trust issues. So if you had a community that was very stable and healthy, a fake person could come on in and create a fake account of one of the individuals within that community and say bad negative stuff. And sometimes it could lead to someone being undermined and questioned, examined, interrogated by that community. Then that victim that's been impersonated is like, come on guys, you know me, I don't do that, how could you think that? And then that's the moment the cracks form and it becomes fractured, that relationship people had together in that community. That questioning, how could you even question me in the first place? Then the insults, then maybe people then throwing it back in the other person's face saying, well, what about that other time when you did this or said that? I didn't say anything, I didn't question you, so why are you doing it now? You're a bit two-faced, you're a bit of a hypocrite. And then there goes the labelling, the insults being thrown at one another, and then it all breaks down within. We've seen it in the Dylan Rouse case community, it's happened. Now, when it's come to here and we've seen invaders coming on over. Not everyone has been a real account. So genuinely, at times, it can be hard to understand a situation, of course, but there are a few exceptions where you could have salty pancakes, an example. Sometimes people impersonate him. Other times, he has multiple accounts. So what I'm getting at times, a person can do themselves no favours if they act a certain way in which an impersonator could do the same thing. So there can be blurred lines. So it's like a before thing compared to, in a way, in similarity to where if someone impersonated you in a negative way and then when you explain yourself to the victim in a rude way, well then it could come off as if you are acting the same way that fake account did. So you're not doing yourself any favours, you're digging yourself into a hole. So if you've got a class clown, kind of like Salty Pancakes. Salty Pancakes is a class clown, okay? How he's acted, how he's behaved with his multiple accounts in the past, and with the proof and evidence of at least one of the accounts being an impersonation of me, okay, which was very unnecessary. And of course, the false labels, Pancakes, labelling me as a trafficker and a crisis actor within the Dylan Rouse case. No proof, but just thrown out there, slanderous. Hopefully people watching understand and see the impact it can have, those false claims on someone. Whether you support Pancakes or once did, hopefully you can understand and see the unnecessary behaviour from him. Because it was visible, I did witness it, others did, and some even documented it, okay? It's not a matter of choosing sides. Who do you defend in that moment? It's just a matter of understanding. You see how messy things can be and how unnecessary it can be, and was it really worth it, right? But what I'm getting at, on top of all that, with Pancakes and even the Shack Lady at some point participating, having fun in live streams, doing prank calls, messing about, class clowns, the moment later on when a person that may hate them impersonates them and paints a more negative picture on themselves elsewhere, and then strangers misunderstand it and think it's coming from the original soggy individual, and then the soggy individual breaks down, cries, throws toys out the pram, has a go, whinge, whines. All the other times it'd be understandable, but on this exception it would be, yes, but based on how you've behaved in the past and what you've done yourself individually, there is a crossover with this impersonation account. And because you've got form for having alternative accounts, it's very likely, okay? So I said there are exceptions where there can be a misunderstanding. People point the finger and point the blame at the original when it's not them. But at the same time, that original person doesn't really have much of a leg to stand on to complain or go on about the injustice when they have got form themselves and they've done similar things in the past. There's a crossover, okay? Some people dig themselves into a hole, like in the early days with the Dylan Brown's case of Kurt Wadsworth, not doing that lie detector test, resisting, but all the other people did. And then maybe the daughter got a little bit triggered and Kurt did, and it's just simply like, well, if you're going to act out, you're going to get defensive, you're not going to follow this or that, for whatever reason it may be, but due to how you behave and act at that moment in time, it is a little bit suspicious, you dig yourself into a hole. And people can say, but, no, there's no but. You're acting out, you're showing resistance, you're resisting. Are you hiding something, yes or no? And if you don't like being questioned like that, well then don't act shady in the first place. It's simple as, don't participate in dodgy actions or do dodgy things, okay? It's like if someone was to question me and say, so Ref, are you hanging out on the street corner next time with plasters covering your nipples? And if I got, you know, triggered by that and say, oh my God, don't objectify me. I'm not an object, I'm a human, you know? I shouldn't be getting triggered in the first place, because if I'm wearing tops, for example, which looks like spearheads protruding through the top, well, kind of asking for it. I've got a leg to stand on there. I don't need to complain. I don't need to get triggered, right? So you hopefully understand the little links there, right? But to refer back to the misunderstandings, right? then leading on to trust issues, then leading on to conflict, before the misunderstanding can anything be done. Now, because there needs to be a level of interaction. And in that moment of interaction, shortly met with the misunderstanding, if you can explain it in the correct way, in a calm way, it'll be fine in those natural settings. In the unnatural settings where a third-party person, as said, has interjected themselves in a community to cause confusion and misunderstandings within the inner circle of people, well, both sides of the party don't know what's going on. The creator, the audience members, or the different types of audience members, both people are being targeted and affected by these third-party disruptors. In those situations, there can be misunderstandings, and because no one really has an answer, no one can formally explain the situation. What the hell do you do there? Exactly, it can be difficult. It has happened in the true crime community's YouTube streets. All you can do is have at least one level-headed individual or a balanced person that simply says, right, I've been impacted by this. It looks like it's coming from you, but I understand that you've been impacted by something and it's coming from me. So is there a small chance that there is an inner factor, a middle person, a middleman causing all of this trouble? I wonder. Right? Now, in those situations where both parties are negatively impacted, but they're both having a go at one another, there shouldn't be trust issues, even if there are misunderstandings, because if you've been around long enough, you should know one another and how each other works. And that can apply in groups as well, depending on how big your community is. With strangers, well, that's understandable. It will be a bit of a lose-lose situation, unless the other person is willing to listen and possibly hear the other one out. If the other one is also willing to hear the other one out, right? You know, it goes hand in hand, right? If it's one-sided and the other person's not willing to listen, lost cause, you're not going to get anywhere. It'll just go on and on and on. But in a situation where you're both targeted, but you both know each other by some third-party disruptor, as disrupting and damaging it may be on your rapport and relations you have with one another within a community, what you do have that the disruptor doesn't have is experience hanging around one another, right? So if there is trouble, if there is a misunderstanding, it should be cleared up pretty quickly if you're in a tight-knit community of people you get on well with, right? You can possibly get on well with people without thinking or questioning, do you trust them or not? You just go with the flow. The moment you do start questioning, saying that you trust them or you don't trust them, it could be a bit of a red flag possibly. Why are you thinking about it? You shouldn't have to think to begin with. Not really. You can be cautious naturally around people, but the moment you settle down in a community or somewhere, really there shouldn't be any problem. And even, at least through misunderstandings on my channel, when it comes to regular people, it's never escalated, okay? Might have been a time where I was messing about or I was calling someone out, but I said the wrong name of another individual in the chat, and then the other person said, oh, what, me? And then I responded back saying, oh no, sorry, I meant the other person. And they were like, oh, okay. You see how simple that was? It's so simple, not that difficult, especially when you're around people you somewhat know and them too as well, okay? Now, what about the other thing? The intent to cause and create misinformation through Chinese whispers and altering the wording and language of how you deliver those messages. We've seen it through enablers, through YouTubers, creators, live streams, live call-ins, and even audience members that want their 15 minutes of fame and me time with their voice, okay? Do a lot of talking. Problem is, these type of people will state something as a fact, a story, or an event that happened when it's actually just a theory or an idea. Not proven, not 100% true, it's just an idea. There's nothing wrong with ideas or theories, but there is a problem when people try masking it into something when it's not. And within the Dylan Brown's case, the disease-ridden communities out there, there is a range of audience members and creators, but more so audience members, because they're the majority in numbers, that were responsible for talking about and passing on through Chinese whispers of these supposed facts and events, which were actually just ideas or rumours. So because of that poor wording and communication and not questioning it from the start, just nodding their heads like those little nodding Chinese cat dolls, whatever you call them in shops, just simply laying there and accepting it for the truth and not even questioning it, very easygoing, low standard humans, well, the endless cycle goes on. Basically, if you don't quite understand it, the Dylan Rounds community, the YouTube streets, the true crime community is a big chain of the human centipede. There's a lot of humans that are stitched from mouth to the rear end of someone's bottom, and they just feed shit all the way through and accept it, okay? It's like, Daddy, can you please shit in my mouth? Oh my God, that's such a big load you've got. Thank you so much, Daddy. Really grateful. I'm going to pass it on to the person behind me because I've got no choice because the person's mouth is stitched to the other person's hole. That's the human centipede, the horror film, okay? So that's exactly what happens within these communities. No questioning, just accepting. You got the original disruptor for creating these false stories, rumours, and turning them into facts. They're the main problem. They're the catalyst of it all. But what's no better are the people that are fed the bullshit, ingest it, digest it, and pass it through the rear to the next person's mouth. Literally, the human centipede of the YouTube and true crime streets. So if you want to use that as a phrase, you want to stick it onto a t-shirt, you're welcome to do so. The human centipede of true crime and the YouTube streets, 100%. Okay? So what happens to that is when they're passing it on through mouth to bottom, all the way round and round and on, depending on how big or long it is, and I'm talking about the community there, okay? Because size does matter. The bigger it is, the more damage it will cause. Watch your crazy. Watch your crazy. Don't be thinking of other things. Pay attention, okay? Don't corrupt your mind. So yeah, the longer and bigger the community is and the more people that are basically just accepting this false info, eventually there might be a breakdown in communication if there is Chinese whispers where it does change slightly, or if there is finally that someone comes on in and then basically puts it to a halt and says, hold on, this is all rubbish and lies, hold on. And then they provide their side of the story. Problem is, once a person comes on in with some form of stability and proof to counter the BS, that whole human centipede and chain of people in a community, audience members more so, and creators, that hierarchical structure, all those people will then question it and say, what? Yeah, but we've been told this, but you're now saying that? You're the minority, we're the majority, we're right. That person that told us it is right. That's our master, that's our slave. We look up to him, you know, or her, you know. What are you on about? And that one individual outnumbered, number one to whoever, that outnumbered person has to try and explain a situation and put the facts across, or maybe the evidence. And depending on how long gone or delusional and dipsy that, you know, audience or community is, who've been false, you know, fed a false sense of lies and stuff and info, they might not accept it. And if they do, or if some accept it and others don't, then within that community, internally, there is conflict and misunderstanding. Misunderstanding from the very beginning, which is then shown up now because someone else has come on in to highlight the BS, which all these people have thought was the truth when it wasn't, and then now they don't know what to do with themselves, they don't know how to think, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. And some may stick on to the false info and others won't. So some pick up on the BS early, others don't. But then internally, those that have stuck with the BS then feel betrayed by the people that have finally woken up. And then they have a go at one another. Some decide to break away, part, find a clean sheet, do whatever, right? But at the end of the day, all these people were once a part of the human centipede, okay? There might still be a few skid marks around the lip or side of a person's face, but it is what it is, okay? But with time, when people do clean up, when people do get clean sheets, and we're not talking about the one and only sheet, shoe, no, but all the other people, they might have a clean sheet now, but back then they do have a past and they forget their position and where they once were, hence why history repeats on itself. But do you see once again how a third person, a third party individual can feed lies, misinformation, confusion, stir it? The general public, the audience, or an enabler, YouTuber with maybe a live stream call-in panel, whatever, listens to it, accepts it, believes it, and then so does the audience because they think it's good enough. And it just goes on and on until someone steps on in. And then once they do step on in, then the audience and that community is turned upside down and then at it with one another. Maybe eventually they do see the truth, they all wake up, but all that misunderstanding and all that conflict and drama throughout, could it have been avoided from the start? Absolutely. How could you avoid it from the start? Well, when people feed these stories or this information, all you have to do is say, do you have proof? Can it be backed up by other people? If not, we'll listen, but we won't show internalization. We won't digest those thoughts as facts. We'll just listen and take it into consideration, that's all. That's what creators on YouTube should do. Listen, but they don't have to be brainwashed. That's what audience members should do. Listen, but still have an opinion or a disagreement of themselves without being brainwashed. But there are a lot of easygoing humans out there, maybe lower standards, or maybe vulnerable and it's out of their control, and they get brainwashed, they get confused, or more so at a later point get confused when having to be met with the actual truth compared to their truth, which is false. Okay? And because people pick up on it at different times during the process of some waking up and others staying asleep, there is conflict between that. Some choose to leave, others choose to stay. By the end of the day, it could have all been avoided if people just simply said, do you have proof and evidence of this? Can it be backed up? If not, then we're not going to get brainwashed by it or believe it's the truth. That's it. A long-term issue within all these different communities out there, still ongoing till this day. The amount of damage it's caused, it could have all been prevented in such an easy way. This is groundbreaking, what's being talked about here. I'm revealing all these methods and key strategies and counters to it all. This is why, at least back then, when doing what I was doing, it didn't break, it didn't collapse here, because it was all under control. And when those came along, which supposedly were telling the truth, like Corey, of all people, yeah, and then some of the others along the way, some audience members like Fast Eddie, like Fiddling Phil, IYQ2, IQ -20, whatever you call them, low IQ individual. You had Buster Bitchamers, you had Ty Corbin at one point, and just some other people that were going along certain bandwagons and trends of information which turned out to be a complete bollocks. All these vulnerable humans in here and all over, just accepting this and that, low standards, low IQ, no spatial awareness, no questioning, just being the human centipede from the beginning. And I'm being serious when I talk about the human centipede. That's exactly what it is with all these humans. I can see the symbolism of it all, okay? You look at my mouth, without looking too close. You look at my lips, clean, pure, as it should be, because it's under control. And as an example, when the experts have come on in, I've not given in. I've not got on my knees and begged and pleaded and accepted. I just listened, and that was it. And waited until there was evidence or proof. And most of the time, there wasn't. Big surprise, not. How did the audience members deal with it here, though? Well, higher standard humans were able to listen, but not accept it all the time. They still questioned and may have disagreed, and if not, just questioned, not exactly certain yet. Yes, that's normal behavior. And those out there that may say, do you know what? Okay, I've taken on board what you said and what you've presented, but I'll wait until the family present it. I'll wait until the news and the police talk about it. Maybe stubborn, but you want a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people there have been attacked for having a second opinion. But you get what I'm saying. All in all, on an individual personal basis, there can be misunderstandings. If you reply back in a formal way or in an understanding way, shouldn't be any problems. When dealing with a group-based situation, a chain of people, if you're open-minded but still a bit alert and cautious without being nasty, without striking back, whether that's trust issues or not showing, providing you're just a little bit cautious with people or outsiders, there shouldn't be a chain effect of confusion, right? You see how many things can be eliminated like that? Now, what about if you're in a community or a closed community of regulars that may have trust issues or constantly talk about trust issues and constantly talk about drama? Well, that tends to be when people are unaware, maybe to themselves, constantly tied up in an endless cycle of drama and conflict and misunderstandings and trust issues. Okay, lay it out on the table. What comes first, then the other, then the other? Well, without it being a full circle cycle, it starts off with a misunderstanding, whether you know the person or not. In this case, you know the people. But there may be a misunderstanding. What's stated, what's said, how it's been worded, a breakdown in communication. You take it as an insult. You take it as a personal attack when it wasn't meant that way. You take it as a critique when it was actually constructive criticism or a form of positivity. Or you misunderstand a situation in which you think your name's been brought up, but it was actually somebody else's name, right? All those misunderstandings which you will see in these communities, then respond back and say, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then the others respond back, and then it breaks down from there. That can lead to trust issues in, wow, all this has happened all of a sudden. What else has happened before that? What else could happen in the future? That's when people start double doubting themselves or doubting one another, which then leads to those trust issues. You don't have to have trust issues from the beginning. You can develop them in the future with people you're around. If you see red flags, you can get cautious and suspicious of people. But in these type of cases and scenarios, it's red flags which are actually false flags. These false flags are through misunderstandings in which these false flags then lead on to trust issues with people and one another, even if they know one another and are around one another virtually online. It clearly shows how fragile, hollow and soulless these communities are and these people are with one another. If you truly know someone or you think you know someone, there should be a bit of trust and understanding. And when things do go wrong or when you do misunderstanding a situation, instead of jumping in at the deep end and responding back in such a defensive way, why not just hold off and try and understand what's going on, what they could mean, what they could be talking about? I mean, in my own experiences, I've come across some people here and there in recent time in other communities like Kenny Beach. Their behaviour, their attitude has surprised me because most of the time they've been somewhat okay or they started changing with time, but that's more of a them problem rather than a me problem, okay? So then when I have responded back and I said, you're a bit impetuous all of a sudden, or you're a bit of a problematic individual, they get very offended by that, right? Because they supposedly claim to be treated well when, to be honest, you know, if you're going to act like a dickhead, you're going to be treated like one, regardless of if you're a stranger or not. You're going to start causing problems, then the problems need to revolve back to you because you're the creator of that, okay? So sometimes there needs to be a formal situation. Sometimes there needs to be a direct response, okay? You don't have to go into overkill mode like how I've done in the past, but, you know, it should be manageable and controlled. If there was a mutiny within your own community or group, well, then you're probably around the wrong type of people or you attract the wrong type of people and you may need to cut ties, okay? So, you know, when you get these communities of people constantly talking about drama or involved in it, and constantly referring back to trust issues and constantly referring back to misunderstandings, they've all done it themselves to one another at some point. They're all hypocrites, okay? They lack the understanding. They lack the awareness. They've been around long enough with one another, yet they still don't understand the fundamentals and the different perspectives and viewpoints. That's why all these humans out there in these different communities and YouTube streets failed to demonstrate balance in the Dylan Rounds case. If they failed to demonstrate balance in the Dylan Rounds case with different perspectives, and they were egocentric individuals, impetuous one-dimensional beings in those moments, then in any other situation or interaction, whether it's to do with a case or just a simple discussion or hangout, they're not going to show perspectives or understandings there. If they turn on and off when they choose to, like a dodgy showerhead and tap, well, they're being very selective, and then that's a bit manipulative because they're only choosing what they want to listen to or what they want to think a certain situation is. Just like how a person may see a video of mine and think it's all the negatives when there are actual positives mentioned about them, but they choose to only listen to all the negatives and none of the positives because they have an agenda with me from the beginning. That's a them problem rather than a me problem. So if all these people come on in with a certain agenda or a certain mindset and maybe selective hearing, then with selective hearings, it can be done on oneself. They cause themselves trouble or cause others trouble just by only listening in when they want to, or listening to only half of a story, or fast tracking it and not listening to it all and being impatient with a low attention span. And yet they still expect or demand an answer when really the answer was staring them in the front of their eyes from the beginning if they just stuck around and listened. And if they said, I've got no time to be doing that, I'm a busy person, I've got better things to be doing. Well, if you've got better things to be doing, then why are we even here in this situation in the first place if you've shown trust issues and going through this misunderstanding, which leads to the trust issues, which then leads to the conflict, which then leads to all this falling outs and arguments. If you've got better things to be doing, then you wouldn't be in this mess to begin with. But if it's a personal choice to get to this state, well, you know, you just got no position to be talking when you personally have chosen not to listen to the full context. And again, as I said, there's always exceptions where there might be the odd time here and there where a person might accidentally mishear something or misclick or jump ahead slightly and forget about the previous point. That's unfortunate, it can happen. But if it's a repeated action, a repeated mistake, maybe there's more to it. And this is what I'm talking about. A one-time interaction, a one-time misunderstanding, could be trust issues, maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, it pretty much dies out after that. You don't need to do much, people part ways. But if you're in a situation, a state, a community, wherever, whatever you're engaging in, and you sense a pattern and cycle with people around you, the same outcome every time. Oh, misunderstanding. Oh, leads to conflict. Oh, leads to some trust issues and questioning. Oh, finally resolved despite the drama. And then where we at? Back to square one because it happens all over again every time. Almost like human centipede stitched from the beginning to the very end in a circle, infinity, an endless loop. When it's like that, an endless loop of misunderstandings within people, the problematic people, you need to cut ties with them. If you feel like that there is constant drama or conflict, it's because you're around people that go through an endless cycle and it will not stop, it will not change. Even if you as an individual may change or better yourself, the others won't, so it will keep on going on and on and on. Not much else will happen or change. So all you can do is block those people. You know, misunderstandings here and there can happen in life, but constantly there's a problem because it's annoying having to go through the same old long procedure of explaining yourself, being critiqued, being attacked, explaining, wasting energy, then reaching a resolve, being successful, hugging, kissing, making up, only for it to happen all over again. It's draining, it's tiring, it's a waste of time. And if you are doing important stuff, it can divert your attention elsewhere to unimportant stuff. So it can have a negative knock-on effect with you, with whatever you may be doing online or in real life. So you need to try and cut ties with these endless cycles of people. You may not be the problem yourself, but the people you're around are a problem. And if you don't see any change, well, it's because they're not changing themselves. Okay? This area isn't like groundbreaking motivational advice or positivity. It's just being basically realistic with common sense. And as I said, a lot of people, or a range of people out there, are probably lacking that. I said, you heard what I said, not 100% of people, but either the majority or a fair portion of humans out there. See, at times being specific with words just like that can prevent problems. Because I'll mention a critical point right now. If after that long video that I've just done just then, if I ended it on a final sentence saying, as we know, all people lack common sense, then why am I making this video then? And all the people listening who should be listening and maybe making notes, for me to say all have no common sense, they would be attacked and insulted, throwing it back at them, escalating this entire issue, and it would have been a microcosm of this bigger issue. But I've eliminated that because I used keywording and specific lines, all under control, even right now, live action, abstract art, warlike ref. Okay? It's all that. So I think that was a perfect summary, or at least I think it was. Let me know your thoughts down below. I guess it's now time just to transition onto something completely different. Part of me's thinking, maybe we need to do it as a part 2 video. I'm wondering. I think that's what we'll do. As for a hint, just so it doesn't diminish or distract or direct from what this video was about, okay? There is the particular tool and item which some people won't be familiar with or have seen before, such as on my channel, but it has come up in recent time. So watch your crazy. Those statements about later on, expect for things to happen. 2 parts to this video, well, literally 2 parts to this video. I'm being conscious and wary of the time of this video as well. That's why I'm doing it, okay? But I thought there's no harm in at least introducing certain items right now, so it's not for nothing. Part 2 will follow later on tonight, probably much later on, because I want this video to be the main centerpiece because it's more important, okay? No disrespect there. But as for dodgy time, as for part 2, which may not be of people's interest as much, because some people may not like one another, I'll just keep this very brief and then I can do the main part later. Okay, so it doesn't diminish the overall part of this video. But watch your crazy. Watch your crazy. You've been a naughty individual in recent time. You've been sticking too many fingers in pies and all kinds of things, probably. Well, besides your printer, okay, it's working, it's performing, isn't it? Your printer, the spreadsheets, the reports, the all kinds of information, the ink cartridges, it's all working, and you're paying printer support. Forget about child support. You're putting all the money towards printer support. Any super chats, any Venmos, any pay pigs, any moo pals, any camel pals, any camel cash me apps, whatever you want to call it. All that money, I assume, is going towards your printer support. Yes, watcher? Well, that's good to see. But there is a new item on the block. This. Forget about your printer, watch your crazy. The stapler has arrived and it's going to pin you down. Okay? Not for that to be taken out of context, but this is going to pin people down all over the place. Okay? We said about the whip. Oh, my boy. Okay? This led to consequences, confessions, and purity. Isn't that right, Dale? Inside, trapped within that confession box. Exactly. Something like this has helped the cancer and toxicity, right? It's led to submission. It's led to judgment day of the scriptures. But has it ever held anyone firmly in place? Not then until now, okay? There is symbolism behind this, watch your crazy. If you stick around for the next video that comes later on tonight or today, you will learn. And as for the new tool on the scene, this. Is it another whip? Not quite. It's a zip whip, okay? You got one whole piece like that, or you want to unzip Ooh, shh, shh. Unzip. I'm going to unzip right now, okay? Anyone watching in the background? Anyone got this audio on whilst not being at the screen, not knowing what's about to happen? Yes, it's time to unzip and open up. There we go. More. And you know what happens? It creates two heads. Two heads are better than one. It gets the job done quicker. So that means two individual whips, maybe smaller, but they part ways. Twins. Twins. Oh, okay. Double the trouble. So watch your crazy. Watch out. There are new items present. As for anyone confused or anyone too excited, don't worry, there will be an explanation and context later, so there aren't any misunderstandings. Be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching this video though. Share your thoughts, comments down below whether you agree or disagree with what's been said today, the importance of it. If you do want to catch up on recent videos, top right corner of the screen, click on the I symbol. You'll be able to find it there and watch the latest videos if you haven't already. And down below in the comment section, you'll find a pinned comment by me with some additional links if you wish to check them out. But we'll leave it there for now. We'll see what happens next. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. I'll see you later, possibly.